What happens when the people sworn to protect you sell their oath? Investigators say this network didn't survive because it was clever. It survived because insiders were paid to shield it. In minutes, we'll trace the internal ledger, monthly transfers to the sheriff, delayed 9/11 responses, and advanced warnings that kept safe houses running while fentanyl flooded San Francisco and victims disappeared. Watch to see how federal teams stacked the timeline, mapped the money, and hit every node at dawn to shatter the shield that hid an empire. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. A judge's robe turned into camouflage. How does a courtroom become the safest room in a trafficking empire? Jiangming Huang sat on the bench by morning and ran dispatch by afternoon. His office calendar set hearings and, according to internal notes later recovered, synchronized pickups, drops, and cash movement. Chambers were more than walls. They were a checkpoint. Staff saw case files. Couriers saw code. At home, he hosted mentorship dinners for attorneys while runners rotated vehicles in the alley. 2 addresses, 1 system. He kept the docket tight, called recesses on rhythm, and used those gaps to move product, people, and messages with the weight of a seal and signature behind it. Court records looked clean. No flagged conflicts, no sudden recusal pattern. Missing persons reports sat in different counties, each labeled transient or voluntary. Internal complaints hit policy traps. No named victim, no clear incident, no action. The links never drew themselves because each lived in a separate folder, a different database, a different supervisor's inbox. When a public defender raised concerns about bond schedules aligning with off-hours releases, the note became a footnote. When a shelter logged repeat sightings of the same driver, the system tagged it as non-criminal. The gaps were intentional, and the clock favored the bench. Recruitment ran through fake modeling posts and easy cash, flexible schedule ads in community forums and job boards. The intake funnel asked for headshots, passport scans, emergency contacts, and a short audition on encrypted chat. That trove became leverage. Soft interviews asked about parents' jobs, siblings' schools, and immigration status. Applicants thought they were advancing. They were building their own cage. Once inside, a handler swapped phones, took control of social accounts, and mapped contacts for threats. A refusal triggered a reminder. Your mother's address, your cousin's scholarship, your visa renewal date. The loop ran like a bus route. Victims cycled through short-term rentals, basement rooms, and corporate leases, moved every 10 to 14 days. Landlords saw mid-month turnovers and cash cleaning fees. Neighbors noticed a new nanny or student hauling luggage on Fridays. Patterns never settled long enough to draw heat. Drivers switched plates between garages. Ride shares covered first and last miles. Every move reset risk scores and muddied any digital trail. Coercive control did the rest. Threats landed where they hurt. Parents overseas, siblings here on student visas. Employers who would see leaked photos. Reputation blackmail trapped those with professional ambitions. Passport withholding trapped those without status. They held debit cards for safekeeping, skimmed wages through app-based payouts, and fronted debts for travel, housing, and training that grew with interest. Fear cut faster than fences. Compliance didn't need bruises when a handler could wipe a future with one email. Under the judge's residence, investigators later found a tunnel leading to a garage on a side street. Inside, 22 kilograms of cocaine, a press, and a back room where 3 victims sat chained by the ankle, each tagged with a color code matching intake files. The basement doubled as a studio for forced content and a cold room for product. The tunnel meant deliveries avoided street cams and doorbell video. Any knock at the front door became theater while the real traffic moved below. The ledger started with couriers and ended with a calendar. Encrypted notes tied cash runs to hearing blocks, bail schedules, and lunch recesses. A string like B2-1115 told a driver the judge would call a break at 11:15, opening a 20-minute window for a drop 2 blocks away. Bail terms signaled cash needs. A day with stacked low bonds meant outflows to bondsmen aligned with inflows from retail sales. The robe didn't move the money. It hid the motion by controlling when doors opened and who could walk through them. That control bought scale. A $400 million operation needs more than muscle. It needs time, access, and credibility. From the bench, he granted all three. Time came from predictable rhythms. Access came from secure spaces and private corridors. Credibility came from the stamp that silenced doubts before they formed. If the courtroom hid the hub, who built the shield on the street? Follow the money into patrol cars. One line item tells the whole story. $42,000 monthly to a county sheriff. What did that buy? Inside the ledger, payments run like train schedules. Rows show dates, precinct numbers, shift codes, and a label for event type. The entries don't round off. They land on exact amounts tied to specific windows on the clock. 39 officers appear across multiple stations, spread so each watch has coverage. Day tour, evening tour, midnight. The notes match patrol areas with properties used as safe houses and stash units. Cash doesn't flow evenly. Pay spikes on weekends and at the end of the month when audits usually lock. The sheriff's line sits at the top, steady at $42,000, routed through intermediaries and disguised as consulting income. That money stalled internal affairs, adjusted tasking orders, and drained momentum from cases before a warrant could form. As one source put it wasn't influence. It was insurance paid on schedule. The effect shows up on the street. Calls mistakenly rerouted to non-priority queues. Patrol cars arriving 12 to 18 minutes late. Inspection notices landing 2 days after the fact. Officers happening onto safe houses minutes after the victims had been moved. A tip about a loud argument becomes a welfare check without urgency. A building complaint goes from active to pending because the inspector's calendar suddenly fills. The pattern repeats often enough that neighbors stop calling. Inside dispatch, tasking orders shift mid-shift. Units get pulled for traffic control or a stray alarm test, just long enough to miss an active complaint. The workflow runs through text chains that look harmless until you learn the code. Signal words mark status. Parade means hold back patrols. Fire drill means reroute. Fog means delay entry. Burners tied to beat maps, swapped every quarter. A second set of phones lives inside the stations, moved from locker to avoid a single owner. Dispatch terminals show minor edits to call types, changing disturbance to information only, which lowers priority. Supervisors print altered tasking sheets and hand them out after roll call. On paper, the precinct looks busy. In practice, the right blocks go quiet whenever the ledger buys a window. The damage is measured in people, not lines. Investigators counted roughly 1,000 victims over 8 years. Hundreds of girls were 16 to 22. Families were threatened with exposure or deportation. Several reports list forced suicides. Witnesses say officers already briefed on the network's interests arrived first, questioned statements hard, and amplified immigration fears. Many victims pulled their reports or vanished from the system. Community leaders who asked questions received warnings. Reporting only made things worse, the source states. The ledger shows the same names on payment schedules and missed follow-ups. That overlap wasn't luck. Fentanyl powered the engine. Counterfeit pills stamped to mimic legitimate meds moved fast because they fit in a pocket and sold cheap. Heroin batches cut with fentanyl boosted potency and turnover. Supply traced back to Chinese origin precursors, passed through intermediaries, and linked into distribution channels tied to the Sinaloa cartel. Dense immigrant corridors gave cover. One delivery could see dozens of micro-dealers, each operating under protection windows. Each shipment multiplied harm with surgical precision, the source states. San Francisco's overdose crisis makes the trend visible. Fentanyl-linked deaths spike in waves that align with shipment periods and light enforcement weeks. When the ledger funds an extended parade, street-level disruptions drop and overdoses climb within days. Treatment centers log more intake. Morgues report capacity strain. A day later, inspections resume and the curve dips, only to rise with the next protection window. Supply lines track cleanly with those pauses, not with demand alone. In one case, a safe house survived 3 separate complaints. A neighbor reported screaming. A landlord flagged illegal construction. A delivery driver noted strange foot traffic at odd hours. Inspections slid exactly 2 days each time. The ledger shows a small stipend tied to the address on the same dates as the delays. By the time anyone arrived, the victims were gone, the walls were patched, and a new lease sat on the door. The payment structure bought time and silence. The sheriff's monthly transfer locked the shield. Per-incident stipends purchased delays on demand. Bonuses rewarded timely tip-offs. That schedule held as long as the money moved. Payment bought time, but time ran out. Now we move to how federal teams mapped the shield and broke it. At 412, the shield cracked. How did teams hit every node before a single warning could leak? They built one brain and many hands. FBI, DEA, DHS, ICE, ATF, and a joint task force moved into a single ops center. Walls showed live maps and call logs. Each agency held a slice. Financials, telecom, firearms, immigration, organized crime. But they worked from synchronized warrants built to trigger on the same clock. Teams were compartmented. Nobody carried the full picture, and no single leak could ruin the run. Command kept radio silence until the last hour. Couriers, dispatch allies, and the judge's circle had no hint because there was nothing to tip. No rumor, no unusual meeting, no early moves at the courthouse. Years of leaks made speed and silence the only option. The plan cut chatter to seconds. Every unit rehearsed with stand-ins and shell addresses. Drivers memorized routes to multiple targets but learned which one only at rollout. If one door slammed, 3 more opened in the same minute. The risk was simple. One wrong knock and the network scatters, evidence burns, and victims disappear into the next city. So timing ruled. Hitting everything at once meant alarms rang into a void. No friendly dispatcher, no paid patrol lag, no window to run a last sweep of phones and laptops. Targeting came from data, not hunches. Analysts stacked cell site dumps over a year of key dates to trace device clusters that formed and reformed near the same rentals, court blocks, and storage units. Bank transfers flagged dummy companies that moved retainer consulting fees in tight loops across accounts. License scans from neighborhood cameras caught the same plate swaps passing under different tags. An anonymized tip matrix pulled community reports into weighted scores that fed a heat map. High-value nodes glowed where footprints, cache, and calls overlapped. The objective was simple and absolute. Cut the network's spine before it could scatter. Tactics protected the case while preserving surprise. Parallel construction kept a clean trail for court. Routine traffic stops, probation checks, and code inspections explained why a unit showed up at a door. Decoy warrants masked true targets, pulling attention toward low-value sites while entry teams prepped the real hits. At 412, breachers moved in Chinatown safe houses, Mission apartments, a waterfront warehouse, and a hillside compound. Evidence teams followed in waves. The judge's office and residence triggered on a separate track. Time to avoid any cross-call that could reach his staff or friendly officers still on duty. What they found matched the map. Narcotics packed in heat-sealed bricks, ghost guns in parts, and finished pistols with drilled-out serials, counterfeit pill presses with oxycodone dyes, intake binders labeled by quarter, each with victim dossiers, headshots, passports, next-of-kin contacts, and leverage notes.